Let me show you how to use a local LLM inside of Cursor. Now, obviously for this to work, you need to download the Cursor IDE, so you can do that at cursor.com and then download for whatever operating system that you're using. The next thing that we want to download is Ollama, and this allows us to run a bunch of different models on our local system. So to do that, we can go to ollama.com, and then once we're here on the main screen, we can click on download. Now download and run the installer for your particular operating system. So since I'm on a Windows machine, I will be showing you how to install it using Windows. Once you open up the installer, you'll get met with this screen, and all it's telling you to do is click on the install button. So that's what we'll do. Now, once the installation process is complete, it will automatically close that window, but we can see that it's running by going into the bottom right for Windows and then clicking on this caret symbol. And up here in the top right, we have Ollama. So this is how we know that it installed correctly and is running. We can now open up our terminal of choice. For me, I'll be using PowerShell. And if we type Ollama in, we get a list of commands that we can use for the Ollama CLI tool. Now we do need to look for a model that we want to use. To do that, we can go back to the ollama.com website and then go to models. And from here, we can scroll through this whole list to see which one we want to use. I'll use the 12B Gemma 3 model because it says it's the current most capable model that runs on a single GPU, and I'm only running it on a single GPU. Now you'll see over here on the right that we have a command that we could copy. What this is going to do is it's going to automatically pull down this model as well as serve it so that it starts running immediately. For right now, I just want to copy the name of the model, so I'll highlight it here and hit Control-C. Now, while we could run that whole command, the run command, what I want to do is I want to show you how to do it separately so that you can just pull down the model without running it and then run it later. So we use Ollama pull and then the name of the model and then hit enter, and it will download the model. Once you've downloaded the model, we need to run the web app in order to actually use it. To do that, we run Ollama serve. But first, we actually need to set the Ollama origins to any origin. Basically, any request that comes in, we are just going to allow each request through regardless of where it came from. So what we need to do is set this Ollama underscore origins environment variable, and you'll have to use whatever operating system function that you need. For Windows, I use set, and then we set it equal to just a star. Once you set that environment variable, we can then run Ollama serve, and that will start up the web app. If you run into this bind error, what we need to do is we need to close out of the original Ollama running instance. So to do that, I just highlight down here, click the caret symbol, and then right click on the llama icon, and then click quit Ollama. Now we technically have the model running at this URL here with the port 11434, and you'll see that this is 127.0.0.1, which is localhost. However, for whatever reason, Cursor doesn't allow you to use localhost as an accessible endpoint. It requires that endpoint to be online, basically accessible from anywhere. To accommodate that, we can use this tool called ngrok to basically take our local host and make it an online accessible URL. So we can go to the ngrok download page and scroll down to our operating system and select the installer that we want to download. Now, ngrok does require you to sign up for a free account because you'll have to take an auth token and authenticate the CLI tool with your account. Also, in case you're curious, all of these links are in the description, so don't worry if you miss something. Now, through the installation process, if you downloaded it directly, you need to take this executable and put it on your environment path. Now, if you don't want to add it to your environment path, you can reference it directly by just using the full path. So here, I'll just take this ngrok.exe and I'll drag it onto my PowerShell. Now, the installation does say that we need to add our auth token so that it knows who we are. So we'll copy this and then paste it in our terminal, but we have to replace that token. So you can either sign in, or if you haven't signed up already, you can click on this sign up button right inside of this config and run window. Here you can fill out some basic information, or we can just log in with our Google OAuth or GitHub OAuth. Once you've signed in, you might come to this Get Started page, which welcomes you. And on the left-hand side, we can click on your auth token. Now, automatically, whether you just signed up or signed in, you will have an auth token given to you, and we can click this eyeball or we can click the copy button to copy that token. So I'll go ahead and copy it, and then I'll paste it in here to configure ngrok. Now, once we've successfully configured, and don't worry, I'm going to reset this API key so nobody can use it, we can run ngrok. And we do that by typing the HTTP command along with the port that we're using. Now you'll remember on our setup, we have this 11434 for Ollama. And then we type dash dash host dash header equals, and then localhost colon, and that same port. Once you've written that out, we can hit enter. And now we have a new URL that we can use inside of Cursor. Under forwarding, we just need to copy this URL. Now go ahead and open up Cursor. And once you have it up in the upper right, we have this cog symbol. We'll click on it. And then on the left, we need to click on models. Once you're in models, scroll down and click on add model. This is where we need to add the name of the model that we downloaded. So I'm adding Gemma 3:12b. Then just click the add model button. Now, if we scroll a little bit further down, we'll have this option here where we can override OpenAI base URL. This is what we want to click on. Now that we have that ngrok URL running, we can just paste it here, but we also need to add the /v1 so that Cursor can access the web app. For the API key, by default, all it is Ollama. So we don't need to have any specific API key enabled here. And once we're done with this, we can click on this save button. Now, once we have both the URL and API key, we want to click this verify button. Now we're met with the screen. Are you sure you want to enable OpenAI API key? And we'll click on the button to enable it. Now you might get this message where it's saying you have an invalid API key. And if we hit show error message, we can see that we get this 404. And the reasoning is that the GPT-4o not found, but we weren't trying to use GPT-4o. It's because this curl request actually contains the model GPT-4o instead of the one that we have downloaded for me, the Gemma 3 model. So how we fix this is kind of dumb, but also it works. We close out of this and then we unselect every other model except for the one that we're going to use. So we can scroll up and just start unselecting every single model. And once we unselect them all, except for the one that we want to use, this Gemma 3:12b, we can scroll down and then click verify again. Now we're met with the same message and we just click enable OpenAI API key. Now it goes through the whole verification process, and once it's done, it automatically switches it on. Now it will also say if you are on the pro trial or pro version that you don't have to use your own OpenAI key, but we're using this configuration with the override in order to use it locally. So now with all of the models unselected, we should be able to go up here to the upper right and click on Gemma 3:12b and select it as a model, and then we can just ask it a question. So I'm going to ask, what does compression file do? Now my computer isn't the fastest, so it's generating a response, and we can see that it clearly works, which is awesome. So we're using the local LLM and it's producing some response for us. We can even add a context by saying, here's the file, and it's the compression.go file. Now my computer sounds like a fighter jet as it's trying to load this whole response, but you can see that we have this running locally. However, we do have like an online URL, so it's not completely offline. It's just a local model installation. But it's cool. It looks like we got a response back from the model that we're using, and that's pretty much it. Now you can use any model inside of Ollama, just ran locally. And with that, that is how you set up Cursor to use a local LLM.